My name is Jessica Hayes. I am 30 years old. At my husband's funeral, my mother-in-law slapped my 6-year-old son and called him garbage. Then she looked at me and said, "Take him and get out of this house. This house isn't for people like you." I stood there in shock, holding him as he cried in my arms. But then, I wiped my tears and made one call. "I need you to come. It's time." And 2 hours later, they were begging. Before I tell you what actually happened, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel and tell me your country in the comments. Now, let's begin. The sky felt heavier than usual that day. Dark clouds covered everything. The air was cold, silent. People stood around us, dressed in black, some whispering quietly, some just watching. I stood there next to my husband's grave, holding my son's small hand tightly. The priest was speaking, saying prayers, words about peace, about endings, but I couldn't hear anything clearly. My mind was somewhere else, still trying to understand how everything ended so suddenly. Just a few days ago, he was sitting beside me, smiling, talking about small things, playing with our son. And now, I was watching them lower him into the ground. My fingers tightened around my son's hand as he looked up at me, confused, lost. "Mom," he whispered, "why are they putting Dad there?" My chest tightened. I knelt down and hugged him. "Dad is resting," I said softly, even though saying those words felt like breaking my own heart. "I want him to come home," he said, and tears filled my eyes, but I wiped them quickly. I had to stay strong. For him. Because now, I was all he had. The soil slowly covered the coffin. Each sound felt like something closing forever. When it was over, people started leaving one by one. Some came to me, said things like, "Stay strong. He's in a better place," but their words felt empty. I didn't respond. I couldn't. For a moment, I looked toward my in-laws. They were standing a little distance away, near the grave, just watching. My mother-in-law cried sometimes, but something about it didn't feel real. My father-in-law stood still, no expression, and the rest of them just quiet, cold. And in that moment, a thought crossed my mind. They never accepted me, not from the beginning. No matter how much I tried, it was never enough for them. And my son, they never truly accepted him either. Even now, standing at their own son's grave, they felt distant. A strange fear settled in my heart. How will I live with them now? That question stayed in my mind. After some time, we all got into the cars. No one spoke during the drive. The silence was heavy, uncomfortable. My son sat quietly beside me, holding my hand. When we reached the house, the gates opened slowly. We all walked in together, relatives, guests, my in-laws. The moment we stepped inside, people were already gathered in the living room, sitting, whispering, waiting. As we entered, all eyes turned toward us, and the room went quiet. I could feel it again, that strange feeling. I glanced at my in-laws. They were just a few steps ahead of me, walking inside like nothing had happened. No tears, no emotion, their faces cold, unreadable. I tried to ignore it. This is not the time, I told myself. I just needed to get through this. My son slowly looked around. Then his eyes stopped at something, a photo. It was my husband's picture, placed on a table, decorated with flowers. He slowly walked toward it. I didn't stop him. He stood in front of the picture, looking at it quietly. Then he reached out his small hand and picked it up. "Dad," he whispered softly. My heart started to ache again, but before I could move, the frame slipped from his hand and fell. Crash. The glass shattered across the floor. The sound echoed in the entire room. Everything went silent. My son stepped back, shocked, scared, his eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," he said softly. And then, slap. The sound hit harder than anything else. His small face turned to the side. For a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I slowly looked up and saw her. My mother-in-law, standing in front of him, her face filled with anger. My son held his cheek, tears rolling down his face, and the entire room stood frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. Then suddenly, something inside me snapped. I rushed toward him, pulled him into my arms. It's okay, I whispered, even though my own voice was shaking. I looked at his face, that small red mark on his cheek, burned into my heart. Slowly, I lifted my eyes and looked at her. Why did you slap him? I asked, my voice low, but trembling. He's just a child. She didn't hesitate, didn't feel guilty, didn't even look away. He's garbage, she said coldly. For a second, I thought I heard wrong. What? I whispered. He ruined my son's life, she continued, her voice sharp, harsh. My grip tightened around my child. How can you say that? I said, tears filling my eyes. He's your grandson. Before she could reply, another voice came. She's right. I turned. My sister-in-law stepped forward, arms crossed, face filled with arrogance. You brought nothing but bad luck, she said. My heart sank deeper. I always knew this would happen, she continued. The moment you entered this house, everything started falling apart. Tears rolled down my face. I trusted you, I said softly. I thought you were my family, she laughed, a cold, mocking laugh. Family, she said. Don't insult that word. The room filled with murmurs. People started whispering, watching, enjoying the scene. And then my father-in-law stepped forward. His presence made the room even quieter. Oh, please, he said, his voice calm, but filled with contempt. We made a mistake bringing you into this house. Each word hit like a blade. We cannot accept a middle-class woman in our family. Some people in the room started laughing softly. I stood there, frozen, holding my crying son, humiliated in front of everyone. My son buried his face into my chest. Mom, I'm sorry, he whispered. That broke me completely. No, it's not your fault, I said quickly, tears falling uncontrollably now. But they didn't stop. They continued. Insults, accusations, cold words. You brought nothing here. You were never one of us. You and your son are just a burden. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. No one defended me. No one spoke for us. They just watched and laughed. My heart felt like it was being crushed. But slowly that pain started changing into something else, something colder, something stronger. I wiped my tears, carefully, slowly. And, for the first time, I looked at them without fear, without begging, just calm. Are you done? I asked quietly. They stopped, surprised. My mother-in-law looked at me with anger. Pack your things, she said. Leave this house. My father-in-law added, There's no place for beggars here. Silence filled the room again. I looked around, at every face, every person who stood there watching my humiliation. Then I looked at my son, still holding me tightly, still crying. I took a deep breath. Fine, I said, my voice calm, stronger than before. For a second, they seemed confused. Maybe they expected me to beg, to cry, to argue. But I didn't. Instead, I slowly reached into my pocket, took out my phone, and dialed a number. The room stayed silent. They watched me, confused, annoyed. I put the phone to my ear. Hello, I said softly, paused for a moment, then added, I need you to come. It's time. I ended the call and looked up at them again. This time, my eyes didn't have tears, only something else, something they didn't understand yet. And within the next 2 hours, everything they believed was about to collapse. The room was silent. Too silent. Everyone was still looking at me, confused, annoyed, some even amused. My mother-in-law crossed her arms and asked coldly, Who did you call? I didn't answer. I just stood there, holding my son close. Minutes passed, and the whispers slowly started again. Maybe she called someone for help. Who would even come for her? A few people laughed quietly. My father-in-law shook his head and said, This is useless. Just pack your things and leave. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Time passed slowly. 1 hour. The tension in the room started to shift. My mother-in-law looked irritated now. This drama is getting boring, she said. And then the main door opened, and everyone turned. 2 men walked inside. One of them was holding a file. The other looked around calmly, professional and serious. They didn't greet anyone, didn't hesitate, They walked straight into the center of the room. "Who are you?" my father-in-law asked sharply. The man with the file spoke calmly. "We are here regarding Mr. Adrian's will." Silence filled the room. My in-laws looked at each other. "We already know everything," my father-in-law said confidently. The man nodded slightly. "Then I suggest you listen carefully," he replied. Something in his tone made the room uneasy. He opened the file and began reading. According to the legal will, his voice was calm and clear. "All movable and immovable assets," my mother-in-law frowned. "All business ownership," my sister-in-law's expression changed. "All financial accounts have been transferred entirely," he paused, "to his son." Silence. Complete silence. For a moment, no one reacted, like the words didn't register. Then suddenly, "What?" my father-in-law snapped. "That's impossible. There must be a mistake," my sister-in-law added. My mother-in-law stepped forward and demanded, "When was this will made?" The man calmly flipped a page. 1 month before his death. Their faces changed: confusion, shock, fear. "We didn't know about this," my father-in-law said quickly. The man looked at him and replied, "That's because it was kept confidential." My mother-in-law turned to me. "You knew about this?" she asked, her voice slightly shaking now. I took a step forward. "Yes," I said quietly. The room froze again. Tears slowly filled my eyes, but this time I didn't look weak. I looked straight at them. "Your son knew everything," I said. Their expressions tightened. "He knew how you were stealing money from his business." Silence. "He knew how you were secretly giving it to your other children." My sister-in-law's face went pale. "He knew you didn't love him, you only loved his money." My voice cracked slightly. No one spoke. "And he knew that if something ever happened to him," I looked down at my son, "you would do exactly what you did today." Tears rolled down my face. "So, he protected us." My voice softened. 1 month before his death, he transferred everything to his son and made me, I paused, his legal guardian. The truth settled over the room like a storm. My mother-in-law stepped back. "No," she whispered. "This can't be." My father-in-law looked completely shaken. "You're lying," he said weakly. I shook my head slowly and looked directly at her. "At the same woman who slapped my child," I said calmly. "You just slapped the owner." The words hit harder than anything before. No one laughed now. No one whispered. Just silence, heavy and painful. My mother-in-law's eyes filled with fear. My sister-in-law looked down, unable to speak. My father-in-law stood frozen. And then it started. "Wait, we didn't mean. You misunderstood. We were just upset." Their voices changed from arrogance to desperation. They stepped closer, begging, apologizing. But I didn't move. I didn't react. I just held my son's hand, the same child they called garbage, the same child they slapped. I looked at them one last time and said quietly, "Now," I paused, then finished. "Leave." Silence again. No anger. No shouting. Just one word. And this time, they had no power left. Days later, everything was legally transferred. The house, the business, everything. They were gone. And for the first time, that house felt different. Peaceful. Safe. I sat beside my son, holding him close. "You're safe now," I whispered. He looked at me, still innocent, still pure, and I smiled softly. Because now no one could hurt him again. They called him garbage, but they never knew he owned everything.